Okay, so what do you want to talk about this morning? Because I don't want to talk about that gospel, because it hits a little too close to home for me. Not because I'm wealthy, not because of the commandments, but because he tells the man to go sell all your possessions. I've been collecting things for a long time. I have a lot of possessions. Bill and Brenda are the only people I think that have been to my house. I have a lot of possessions, don't I? Yeah. So that gospel hits too close to home. So what can we talk about? How about purgatory? I was at a party last Saturday. One of my friends actually happens to be a customer of mine during the week. Large farm, large gathering, people from work and people from his parish. He's a Christian, but not a Catholic. And ironically, he lives on Purgatory Lane Road. So when I got there, first thing I said to him, I said, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that you live on Purgatory Lane Road, but as a Christian, I don't think you believe in purgatory, do you? And he yelled to his pastor, who happened to be there. He goes, hey, pastor, do I believe in purgatory? And the pastor thought for a minute, looked back at him and said, you better, because that's where you're going to end up. True story. But, I've lost my place. Oh, so that reminded me of a priest friend of mine who always said to me, you can't aim for purgatory. Because if you aim for purgatory and miss, the place you're going to go isn't too pleasant. So our aim has to be heaven. Because if we aim for heaven and miss, we have purgatory. I mean, the logic of purgatory is perfect in the church. Heaven is a place of perfection. It's almost impossible for us to die in a state of perfect grace, perfection. Therefore, if we're less than perfect and we go to a place of perfection, it's no longer perfect. So purgatory is completely logical. We have to go somewhere to be perfected before we get into the place of perfection. But once you're in purgatory, you know you're getting into heaven. And isn't that why we're all here? You're here because you want to get to heaven. Just like the man in today's gospel. I can't avoid it. The man runs up to Jesus and says, what do I need to do to obtain eternal life? He ran because getting to heaven for him was that important. How many of you ran into church today? I just walked in. This man ran in. And what does Jesus say to him? He gives them the list of shall nots, the commandments. We're familiar with the commandments. But we're not a faith of the shall nots. Not that we don't have to follow them, but our faith is a faith of action. If all we do is the shall nots, then we're not living true to our faith. Jesus' greatest commandment was to love God above all else and love your neighbor as yourself. That's not a list of shall nots, that's a list of action. So the man says, I do all these. What else am I supposed to do? He knows there's more. And then there's that subtle two words right before Jesus gives him the task that crushes him. Jesus looked at him and loved him. An action verb. That's our job. So he loved him first. And then he said to the man, go sell all your possessions, give to the poor, and follow me. And I look at that and I go, that's tough. And the man's crushed and he walks away. So what's the problem? He gave up. Because right after that, the disciples go, who can get in? He says, you can't do it on your own. It's up to Jesus to help you to get into heaven. We have to rely on God. When I was in formation to become a deacon, they always told us your priorities need to be your spouse, your family, your job, and the church. Because the church will try to take over. There'll be lots of things to do, and your family, your spouse, and your job could suffer. But that was a bit wrong. They were missing the one piece. The most important thing, even above our spouse, is God. God is supposed to be the center of our lives, first among everything. And then comes our spouse, our family, and our job. And that's essentially what Jesus told the man in today's gospel. Make God the center. The wealth wasn't the problem. The possessions weren't the problem. It was that they were consuming his focus in his life. He was about the shall nots, and then it became his possessions. And so all of us have something in the church, some church teaching that we struggle with, that we don't like. We don't want to adopt in our lives. And even sometimes we may be vocal about it with our friends or people at work where, oh yeah, I know the church teaches this, but I don't believe that. Actively resisting what God says in our lives through the church. And you can't get there on your own. All things are possible with God. So that's the challenge this week, is to run to Jesus. Let him love you, and then ask for his help with the thing that you disagree or have trouble with in the church. And God will help you get through that. And I will try selling my stuff.